Ladies and gentlemen, in the world of Japanese anime, few stories grip the heart like Attack on Titan. From the very first frame, we are thrown into a world of fear and wonder, a world where humanity clings desperately to survival behind towering walls. It is here, in this crucible of terror, that we meet Eren Yeager, a boy whose life is shattered when Titans destroy his home and take his mother. The anime does not just show us loss, it immerses us in it. Shadows stretch across broken walls, rain pours in relentless sheets, and the camera lingers on the wide-eyed horror of a child realizing that the world outside the walls is a nightmare. This is a beginning steeped in tragedy, perfectly crafted in the visual language of anime, dramatic angles, symbolic imagery, and emotions that scream louder than words. Imagine a world where the very air you breathe carries a quiet, persistent fear. Humanity is trapped behind massive walls, walls that stretch higher than any eye can see, enclosing people who live in constant unease, never knowing when death might come from the outside. In Japanese anime, the power of storytelling often comes from how the world itself mirrors the emotions of its characters, and in Attack on Titan, the walls are not just physical, they are symbols of confinement, vulnerability, and the fragility of hope. From the very first episode, we are introduced to this duality, a society that appears safe but is suffocating in its false security, with every corner hiding the threat of the Titans. The air of unease is painted vividly, through stark visuals of looming structures, desolate landscapes, and the small, fragile human figures scurrying beneath the shadow of what could annihilate them in an instant. Eren Yeager, the story's protagonist, is introduced as a spirited child, full of ambition and dreams of seeing the world beyond the walls. But anime storytelling excels in juxtaposition, and in Attack on Titan, his childhood is almost immediately shattered. When the colossal Titan appears, breaching the outer wall of Shiganshina, it is not just a monster, it is an embodiment of chaos, unpredictability, and existential dread. The animation does not simply show destruction, it captures the terror of helplessness, slow-motion sequences of falling debris, the terrified expressions of families, and the burning horizon as fire spreads across homes. The horror is amplified by contrast, the innocence of a child juxtaposed with the scale of destruction. Through Eren's eyes, the audience experiences a visceral understanding of what it means to confront a power far beyond comprehension. The tragedy does not stop with mere spectacle. Thrust into this catastrophic event, Eren witnesses the death of his mother, a moment that is both deeply personal and universally devastating. In anime, such scenes are often rendered with intense emotional clarity. The camera lingers on Eren's frozen expression, the slight trembling of his hand reaching for a loved one, the muted color palette emphasizing grief, and the silence punctuated only by distant screams. This is not merely a plot device, it is a psychological anchor. Eren's trauma becomes the audience's trauma. We are not just watching a character lose someone, we are living it with him, feeling the sharp edges of helplessness and the first sparks of the burning desire for revenge that will define his early journey. From this moment onward, fear becomes more than a theme, it becomes a teacher. In Japanese anime, environments are rarely passive, they reflect the inner states of characters. The towering walls, the looming titans, and the claustrophobic streets of Shiganshina all mirror Eren's emotional confinement. He is small, but the world around him is enormous, dangerous, and unforgiving. Every corner becomes a lesson in survival, every encounter a reminder of vulnerability. The early episodes emphasize how fear shapes identity. Soldiers train not just to fight but to control the dread within them, citizens adapt routines to maintain a semblance of safety, and children are taught from an early age that death is always a step away. In this sense, the beginning of Attack on Titan is a masterclass in showing how trauma and fear can define a generation, a hallmark of deeply emotional anime storytelling. Anime often uses visual exaggeration to convey psychological states, and here it is employed brilliantly. Titans tower over humans, their grotesque faces and disproportionate limbs creating an almost surreal horror. When the first Titan attack occurs, the camera angles tilt and warp, reflecting the disorientation and panic of those trapped within the chaos. People scatter through narrow streets, parents clutch children, soldiers shout commands, and Eren's own determination begins to crystallize amidst the turmoil. The animation ensures that we feel the scale of danger, not just intellectually, but viscerally. Fear is omnipresent, it is a living, breathing character in its own right. But there is another layer to this narrative. In anime, tragedy often serves as the crucible for heroism. Eren's first encounter with the Titans teaches him something fundamental. Survival is not guaranteed, and powerlessness is immediate and absolute. His subsequent vow, to eradicate every Titan, is not just a promise of revenge but a declaration of resistance against a world that has proven itself cruel and arbitrary. This duality of fear and defiance is central to Attack on Titan. The story demonstrates that in the most terrifying circumstances, the human spirit can ignite, even in a child overwhelmed by loss. The audience is invited to empathize with that process, to experience the transition from helplessness to determination in vivid, animated detail. Finally, the early episodes establish the stakes for the entire series. The fear of the Titans is never abstract, it is intimately tied to human fragility. Every collapse, every death, every wall breached is a reminder that the world is vast, dangerous, and indifferent. In Japanese anime, beginnings matter because they anchor the emotional journey that follows. Attack on Titan begins not with heroes triumphant, but with the raw, unfiltered consequences of being unprepared for the horrors of life. This immersive start, combining visual spectacle, emotional depth, and thematic resonance, sets the tone for a story that will continue to challenge both its characters and its audience, teaching that fear, when confronted and understood, can become the first step toward courage, growth, and the relentless pursuit of freedom. In essence, the tragic beginnings of Attack on Titan are more than just the opening of a story. They are an animated lesson in fear, loss, and the human response to unimaginable threat, capturing the emotional richness that defines the best of Japanese anime storytelling. As the story of Attack on Titan progresses, the narrative shifts from sheer survival to the complex evolution of its characters, each shaped by trauma, loss, and the weight of impossible choices. In Japanese anime, character development is often externalized through visual storytelling, emotions painted across their faces, and symbolic animation that reflects their inner turmoil. Eren Yeager's journey is a prime example. He is no longer just a child haunted by his mother's death but a young soldier grappling with the enormous responsibilities thrust upon him. Every battle he fights, every Titan he confronts, and every decision he makes is a step toward understanding the moral ambiguity of the world he inhabits. The anime style emphasizes this internal struggle through exaggerated expressions, dynamic camera angles, and subtle environmental cues, showing the audience not just what Eren feels, but what the world feels like from his perspective. Anime often portrays growth as a combination of strength and vulnerability, and Eren's evolution is deeply intertwined with those around him. Mikasa Ackerman, Armin Arlert, and other key characters act as mirrors, catalysts, and sometimes counterpoints to his worldview. Mikasa's unwavering loyalty and formidable combat skills juxtapose Eren's impulsive nature, reflecting how discipline and restraint can coexist with raw passion. Armin's intellectual and empathetic approach demonstrates that survival is not solely about physical strength but about understanding, strategy, and moral clarity. Through these relationships, Attack on Titan highlights a central anime theme: the bonds between characters shape their growth as much as the challenges they face. Animated sequences often linger on subtle interactions, exchanging glances, small gestures of care, or moments of hesitation, that communicate volumes about the character's inner states without a single word being spoken. Another defining aspect of this keynote is how moral ambiguity is explored. In Japanese anime, heroes are rarely purely virtuous, and Attack on Titan fully embraces this. Eren's decisions, particularly as he gains the power of the Titans, force both him and the audience to confront difficult questions about justice, freedom, and the cost of vengeance. Each choice carries weight. Saving some may endanger others, striking back may perpetuate cycles of violence, and every victory comes at a moral price. The animation enhances these moments through contrasts: soft, almost dreamlike lighting during introspective sequences versus harsh, chaotic visuals during moments of conflict, emphasizing the tension between the human desire for righteousness and the messy reality of the world. The anime also portrays the consequences of trauma with remarkable depth. Every death, betrayal, and loss is etched into the characters' expressions and movements. The weight of these experiences is not just narrative, it is visual. Slow-motion sequences of faltering steps, close-ups on clenched fists, and lingering shots of empty battlefields communicate the long-lasting impact of violence and grief. Characters are not defined solely by their victories or abilities, but by how they carry the scars of their past and allow them to shape their future. In this way, Attack on Titan reflects one of the deepest truths of Japanese anime storytelling. True growth emerges not from unchallenged power but from confronting pain, failure, and moral complexity head-on. Finally, this keynote emphasizes the gradual shift from reactive survival to proactive agency. Eren and his companions evolve from frightened children reacting to tragedy into individuals who make conscious, sometimes painful choices about who they want to become. This evolution is mirrored in the animation. The characters move from tight, constrained spaces of fear and confinement to wide, open landscapes symbolizing possibility, control, and self-determination. Every battle, every loss, every reflection becomes a step in redefining themselves, and the audience experiences this evolution not just intellectually but emotionally, fully immersed in the visual and thematic storytelling that anime does best. In essence, the second keynote of Attack on Titan, the evolution of characters under extreme pressure, demonstrates how anime can portray the intersection of trauma, moral ambiguity, and growth in deeply relatable ways. Eren, Mikasa, Armin, and the others teach us that strength is multifaceted, that leadership comes with moral responsibility, and that true resilience is as much about understanding oneself and others as it is about surviving the battlefield. The world of Attack on Titan itself becomes a character in its own right, and the Titans are not merely monsters, they are symbols, challenges, and mirrors of human nature. In Japanese anime, the environment often reflects the emotional and psychological landscapes of the characters, and in this story, the towering walls, vast barren lands, and mysterious titans are extensions of both fear and hope. From the very beginning, the titans represent the incomprehensible, the unknown, and the overwhelming force of life and death. Their massive forms, exaggerated proportions, and almost surreal movements are not just designed to terrify, they are carefully animated to convey a world where human vulnerability is constant, and survival is uncertain. The very presence of a titan on screen triggers a visceral reaction, showing the audience the stakes of this brutal world without needing lengthy exposition. In anime, monsters often carry thematic weight beyond their immediate threat, and the titans embody more than physical danger. They are metaphors for oppression, trauma, and the consequences of isolation. For the citizens within the walls, titans are the ultimate external enemy, shaping every aspect of society, from governance and military structure to childhood education and personal psychology. Each titan encounter becomes a moment of reflection for both the characters and the audience. The animation accentuates this by contrasting the titan's immense scale with the smallness of the humans, highlighting feelings of helplessness, awe, and terror. Japanese anime thrives on using visual exaggeration to communicate emotional truths, and the titans are a perfect example of this technique, making the invisible pressures of fear and destiny tangible and immediate. Moreover, the Titan's design and presence evolve alongside the narrative, mirroring the character's own development. Early on, Titans are largely mindless, monstrous threats, a force of chaos to survive against. As the story progresses, layers of mystery, intelligence, and history are revealed, blurring the line between monster and human, oppressor and victim. This transformation is conveyed through shifts in animation style, color palette, and motion. When Titan's origins and connections to the protagonists are unveiled, the horror and fascination are intertwined with empathy and moral complexity. In Japanese anime, such narrative evolution is often paired with symbolic imagery, the Titan's grotesque forms juxtaposed with soft, mournful backgrounds, or their violence punctuated by fleeting moments of almost human expression, to evoke a layered, emotional response in viewers. The environment and world building also reinforce the stakes and thematic weight of the story. The walls themselves are symbolic prisons, both physical and psychological, and the animation emphasizes this through perspective, shadow, and scale. Characters are often framed within the tight confines of Wall Maria or Wall Rose, their movements constrained, their options limited. When Titans breach these walls, the sudden expansion of space and chaos reflects the character's vulnerability and the fragility of the human order. Japanese anime often uses spatial storytelling in this way to make audiences feel the scale and emotional impact of events, and Attack on Titan leverages this to make the world feel alive, reactive, and intimately tied to the characters' experiences. Finally, the narrative significance of the Titans extends beyond fear. They catalyze human growth, political intrigue, and philosophical reflection. Each encounter forces characters to confront mortality, morality, and the consequences of their choices. Titans are not obstacles to be easily defeated, they are tests of courage, strategy, and humanity. In anime terms, they embody the externalized conflict that drives character development, turning every battle into a study of identity, resilience, and ethical decision-making. By blending breathtaking action with emotional depth, Attack on Titan makes the Titans unforgettable not just as monsters, but as reflections of the fears, limitations, and aspirations of humanity itself. In essence, the third keynote highlights that the Titans are more than enemies, they are narrative devices, symbolic forces, and emotional mirrors. Through their presence, the anime immerses viewers in a world where danger is omnipresent, moral clarity is elusive, and every confrontation is an opportunity for growth, reflection, and understanding. The story uses the Titans to transform fear into narrative depth, making the world of Attack on Titan as psychologically and emotionally engaging as it is visually spectacular. The culmination of Attack on Titan is not merely a resolution of battles or mysteries, it is a profound exploration of human nature, choice, and consequence, which is why the final arc resonates so deeply in Japanese anime terms. The story takes viewers from a world defined by fear, survival, and revenge to a place where the characters, and the audience, must confront the weight of morality, ideology, and the cost of freedom. The anime excels at translating these complex themes into visceral, visual storytelling, using exaggerated motion, dynamic camera angles, and symbolic imagery to make abstract concepts tangible. Each frame is designed to emphasize the tension between personal desire and collective responsibility, showing that the consequences of actions are never confined to the battlefield, they ripple outward, shaping the lives of countless others. In anime, the final battles are not just physical conflicts, they are emotional and philosophical ones. Eren Yeager, who embodies both the drive for liberation and the tragedy of obsession, represents the ultimate question: what price is acceptable for freedom? The animation accentuates this by contrasting frenetic combat sequences with moments of stillness, reflective close-ups, and panoramic vistas of the war-torn world. Every clash, every maneuver, is charged with moral significance. Unlike traditional action-focused anime, where victory is often the ultimate goal, Attack on Titan frames each confrontation as a choice between survival, revenge, and humanity. This creates a layered viewing experience where the stakes are both external and internal, engaging the audience in ethical dilemmas as much as physical ones. The final episodes also reveal the complexity of every character's journey. Mikasa, Armin, Levi, and even secondary characters are given arcs that explore loyalty, grief, and the cost of heroism. Japanese anime often uses exaggerated expressions, symbolic backgrounds, and pacing shifts to convey the internal states of characters, and Attack on Titan leverages this brilliantly. When characters face decisions that could mean life or death, the animation slows, emphasizing small gestures, a hand tightening, a tear falling, a lingering glance, to communicate the gravity of these moments. This approach allows viewers to experience the emotional and psychological weight of choices, making the story far more immersive than simple action or spectacle could achieve. A critical element of the final arc is the exploration of cycles of hatred, violence, and revenge, and the question of whether they can be broken. The series portrays how past trauma, inherited conflict, and ideological rigidity shape entire societies. In anime storytelling, cycles are often depicted through repeating visual motifs, mirrored dialogue, or parallel action sequences, and Attack on Titan uses these techniques to show that history often echoes itself unless conscious effort is made to change it. The ultimate decisions of the protagonists, particularly in confronting Eren and his radical vision of freedom, highlight the tension between personal attachment and global consequence, a theme that is both deeply human and quintessentially anime in its emotional resonance. Moreover, the series concludes by emphasizing the fragility of peace and the burden of choice. Japanese anime frequently portrays resolution not as a triumphant ending, but as a hard-earned, often bittersweet realization. The walls may fall, titans may disappear, and the immediate threat may be gone, but the emotional scars, the loss, and the ethical ambiguities remain. The animation underscores this through somber palettes, reflective landscapes, and subtle pacing that allows viewers to absorb the cost of freedom. Characters are left to navigate a world rebuilt not just physically, but morally, reminding the audience that the journey toward understanding, empathy, and coexistence is ongoing. Ultimately, the fourth keynote highlights that Attack on Titan is a story about consequences, morality, and the human condition. The final episodes are not just climactic battles, they are philosophical and emotional reckonings that challenge both characters and viewers to reflect on the meaning of freedom, the cost of choices, and the possibility of breaking cycles of hatred. Through its combination of breathtaking action, nuanced character development, and symbolic anime-style storytelling, the series delivers a finale that is as intellectually engaging as it is visually spectacular. It leaves the audience with a profound sense that in a world of titans, walls, and endless struggle, the greatest battles are those fought within the human heart, and the truest victories are measured not by dominance, but by understanding, compassion, and the courage to change.